I'm Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is Season 9, Episode 10 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast, slated to come out on June 22nd, 2026. And today we're going to talk a little bit about self. We're going to talk about Starbucks and AI, and I'm going to clarify a little bit about the RTX 3080 that we talked about the other day. But first off, we are going to look at Lindeman's Door. Or Dior or something like that. It's a tropical fruit beer that's 8% ABV. And I had to take a picture of it because my old eyes are not able to see like they once did. So I'm going to read the copy from a picture that I've blown up. This mixed fermentation brew is crafted with traditional Belgian lambic and high fermentation beer. Then blended with tropical fruits to provide intoxicatingly fruity flavor and a radiant golden hue. The taste is juicy, full-bodied, thanks to the addition of mango, melon, and lime, resulting in a well-balanced taste and pleasant, easy finish. We predict that you'll love Lindeman's Door. So,
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty good. This tastes really like just a high ABV, like shandy or something like that. You know, it's got the fruit flavors, but like it's very carbonated.
yeah.
It really sticks on your tongue. It tastes 8%, which some people don't like it when it's got that like strong taste to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of appreciate it. I'm not going to lie. I was thinking maybe that's a little bit of a negative when I thought this was maybe 4%, but it's not too aggressive for 8%. You know, good underlying beer, very light in flavor. And the fruit does sit really well on top of it. It's not having to like fight the beer flavor any.
No, it creates a nice mixture with the mango.
Mm-hmm.
The mango, like you can taste each of the individual fruits, but
You
the
can.
mango with the beer, like, has a very nice play
It
because
does.
the malt and the mango kind of go well together. Because mango's got that bit of like funky citrusness to it.
Yeah, and you get the acidity of the lime too. It really helps it stay kind of bright. So I don't know. I mean, this is pretty good. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna say it's the best beer I've ever had, but I definitely like buy some for the fridge.
I'm glad that I have a few more of
Mm-hmm.
these. I think I have 3 more of them. They come in 4 packs. They're really expensive though.
Yeah, a lot of times things like this are.
Yeah, but it's I mean, it's a half bottle of beer, I think, because they're expensive to make, but also they're smaller bottles than what you would normally get for a regular.
Yeah, that's true. The bottle
Beer
is a little
bottle.
small,
Yeah.
but then it's also 8%. So like compared to most beers you're going to be drinking, you know, they're going to be this light. You
Yes,
know?
very true.
Like you get into the dark beers, you can get some high ABVs, but it's rare you see like a, you know, like a wheat ale or something like that sitting at 8%.
Right. So let's I'm gonna go a little bit out of order from the notes. Let's talk about the RTX 3080 first.
Mm-hmm.
So last week or the week before, we were talking about running a local LLM.
Yeah.
And I said, you can do it with the 3080, but it's got 12 gigs and all this other stuff. I just want to make it clear. There's 2 different versions of the 3080. One's got 10 gigs, one's got 12 gigs of VRAM. They're loud because I've got a 3080 over there.
Mm-hmm.
They're much louder than the 2 3060 V2s that I have over here.
Really?
But it has more tensor cores in it.
Okay.
So I haven't found the performance between the 24 gigs that I have in that computer that nobody can see me pointing at, but a computer to my right versus the one that's behind me in my gaming station. That 3080 gets loud whenever I put a load on it. If I'm trying to create images or something like that, I never hear these 2 3060 V2s.
Interesting, yeah, because my 3080 is incredibly quiet, but it's also in a case with a very interesting layout because I like the smaller computers. So my 3080 sits at the top of the case where there's like the airflow comes in. So it's got ridiculously good airflow. So that might be what's keeping it down. I hear my CPU fan a little bit more, but I think that's also because now the CPU is like buried pretty deep into the system.
I mean, it could be, but you might also have yours tuned differently than I do.
That's also true. Yeah, because I do always go. Actually, that's an incredibly good point. Because since I run computers so long, I'm a maniac, and I actually tend to underclock my components. I'll get them in little things, and I'll low everything by like 1 or 2%. And that you're right. That is going to keep it from getting as hot and as loud as something that's running either 100% or higher than 100%.
And I don't have mine overclocked, so I probably would get like better performance. I also have a 3080 Ti, and I haven't really done anything with that, but that also has 12 gigs of RAM.
Yeah.
So that might be something that I one day experiment a little bit with, see if I can get the two into a system where I have enough RAM to have that 24 gigs and the higher amount of tensor cores. But I would expect that it still would. The 3080 Ti is quieter than my 3080. My 3080 is like a Ventus OC. It's like one of those like big ones that's meant for performance.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Not like some of the ones that were made and like tuned a little bit, like from the factory tuned at a little bit lower clock. And I got it like one of the original 3080s that came out. It's not a Founders Edition, but it's like one of the first sets. It is a 12 gig a VRAM card though. I double checked that. So, anyways, just to kind of finish off that talk with like a little bit more facts about it. I know there's two different versions. I also know that there's the 3080 Ti and the 3080, and the 3080 Ti has a bit more tensor cores on it too. So I'm gonna experiment around with that a little bit and see what like performance I can get off of it, and if it's a better and more performant card when it comes to things like that. I've just always like. I've got one computer that I run stuff on.
Yeah.
I've got another one that's like my LLM computer. And I got another one when I was mining crypto when we were doing some of that.
Yep.
And that's kind of like where things come down with like all these different, graphics cards ultimately. But yeah, you can, right now, I could run a query to my LLM that's over there from my phone. Which I'll do real quick, and you can hear how loud it gets. It just doesn't get very loud. What's a good query that I could run to a financial advisor?
Ooh, to a financial advisor?
Yeah.
I guess well, it's not connected to the internet though.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is. Oh, then ask it its opinions on the SpaceX IPO.
Okay. What are your opinions on the SpaceX IPO? Should I buy?
Yeah, I literally had one of my
see right there. It's going to do all the things that it's supposed to do. I like Ella Mini a lot. It's a lot of fun. It'll take it a minute to load the model, and then I'll tell you what the response was. But, I mean, it's loading the model. It's starting to thinking. It's doing all the stuff. And you hear the air conditioner in here louder than that computer.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's very silent. Yeah, see, it's going through its reasoning right now.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And it's going to give me back. I'll tell you what it says here in a moment. Yeah. Ooh, it's got some stuff wrong though.
Yeah, that's very new information.
Yeah.
So like, I get that. But yeah, I was even talking to my Lyft driver. I had one a couple weeks back before, like when the IPO was announced, and he's like trying to get into finance stuff, and he asked me my opinion. And I said I'm not going to get it in the beginning, because what happens with all IPOs is it shoots up and then it drops back down.
Right.
I don't trust myself to time that. And he was like, "Oh, I don't know." And he bought some in the beginning, and then he bought more at the peak once he could buy more, and now it's dropped down like all IPOs do.
Yep.
Because there's the rush to buy in the beginning, and then when it's released, people are going to cash out. And he got some return on the ones he was able to sell then, but he's overall so down because he bought it at like $210 or something like that. And it's just it's hard. It's hard to time those things.
It is. It's crazy. It is spitting out some stuff though. So I'll see if it actually did a web search to do that. I haven't figured out all the nuances of these things, and I want to give it some skills and some other like guardrails. So
yeah,
I'm not. I'm still in the process of like setting that up and like doing like a similar open router, open claw kind of setup on it. It's been fun though, and very educational. setting up this cluster
Mm-hmm.
versus what I was playing with before. Because I've also got image generation set up on that thing too.
Okay, nice.
So like I can talk to it and I can say I want you to generate an image
Mhm.
every time I give you a chat, and it'll just give me an image after each chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So let's talk a little bit about self. This will be me mostly talking because you didn't go.
No, I didn't. I couldn't get the kiddo stuff figured out.
I am going to throw a little shade on everybody. I showed up for our friend group to get together,
Yeah.
and nobody else showed up.
I was not happy with that turn of events because we were good to go. I had the hotel and everything, and it was like 2 days before my kid hit me with I'm not sure I want to do this. And then she had some stuff happen like the day before that it was just like, all right, yeah, well, we're done now. I knew it. I knew before I even got to talk to her about it that I won't get into the details for the podcast, but some not great stuff happened that day, and I was like, all right, we're done.
Yeah,
There's no way I'm getting her on a train after this.
yeah, I totally get it. I mean, no, I'm not actually like saying anything bad about anybody. Just for anybody that's listening.
I'm just bummed because I've wanted to go like the last 3 years and have not been able to get there.
Yeah, and I had to miss last year because family matters, kind of the same thing. Dad passed away and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but I would have been there last year, and the year before, I ended up not being able to go because I had a conflict with work with the other Cisco Live sort of thing that I went to and spoke at. So self this year they had it in a new place, which I don't hate, but I don't really love the new hotel that they had it at. It was at the Sonesta, which ended up being fine. They were a little funny about us having, because normally there's like a party at the in the evenings, but they had one every night, and they gave us pizza the second party that they had, but no like beer. They didn't let us bring our home brews and stuff. As a matter of fact, we brought some, not knowing that it wasn't going to be a thing. I can understand they didn't put it in the party thing. I think people that have just been there for a while just kind of assumed. So showed up, met some people. We were sitting around just having like a share of the home brew. All of us having like a little sip. And one of the guys came over and was like, "Look, just keep that quiet. Don't let other people see it because we're not doing that this year." And I was like, "Okay, well, next year maybe we won't do that." But I kind of miss that thing. The LAN party was good. Made some new friends.
There you go.
Saw some people with some really good talks. So my top 3 talks that I went to, there was one on secrets management with OpenBow, which is kind of like what's that other secrets management platform that most people are using now? Hitachi, Hiroshi, something like that. Anyways, OpenBow is a fork of that. And I'm old man spacing on the proper name for it. But it's a fork of that, and it can be integrated through APIs to do all the secret management things like rotating your keys, holding keys that you want that are static, but not having them in env files on your computer, instead having them in a locked vault that's encrypted. So that was really cool, and seeing how someone can use that with something like Tailscale to be able to spin up services and make those services and machine secrets like really integrated very well. There was also another discussion that was Bitwarden, and Bitwarden, which most of it was stuff that I kind of already knew, but the lady that was there speaking on that is one of the like technical marketing managers for Bitwarden, and she went a little bit into like some of the more practical uses that you can with that, and felt like that was like really good and open. I love I personally use Bitwarden, but I love that Bitwarden is open as opposed to something like 1Password or something like that. So I like that because of the ability to do all the things that allow you to audit it.
Yeah.
Where I used to use LastPass, and LastPass wasn't as open about things, and they kept having breaches happen, which I felt like was problematic. Now, Bitwarden's had some vulnerabilities, but they tend to take those things really seriously, so they try to make those things taken care of as fast as possible. I'm not fanboying on it. If Bitwarden started letting me down, I'd jump ship in a heartbeat. I just like their open source kind of approach to things. Had another talk about container and VM management with OpenShift on Red Hat on RHEL, and like how you can, so that you can actually now get access to the RHEL platform if you want it. You don't have to use Fedora. You don't have to use a community fork, although Alma Linux exists now. If you want to run a server that's using Red Hat Enterprise Linux, you can use it. You just have to sign up for developer account.
Okay.
But it's a free account.
Okay,
And then you get like, it's some ridiculous number of free licenses, like 16 or 20 nodes that you can have. I probably might use 2 nodes in my home. Yeah, because I'm generally not going to spin up a bunch of VMs, right?
Yeah, I mean, even when we were running some enterprise production stuff, we were hitting about 16 nodes, and that was like full with like having separate nodes for development versus production and everything like that. And that was like a true enterprise deployment of a product. So 20 for free just to do is that's pretty generous.
I think it's 16.
Even 16.
Yeah, it was very generous.
Yeah.
It's very generous. So I might take advantage of that. Had a very have you heard of IPv8?
I've heard of it. I don't know anything about it other than I've heard of the product.
It was proposed by a gentleman, and I don't remember his name. I'm sure he's a fairly, smart person and things like that. On the talk so it was proposed by this gentleman to the IETF.
Yeah.
There is no actual product for IPv8. But it was proposed to be a backwards compatible IP schema with IPv4.
Okay.
So basically it takes and puts a prefix in front of the IPv4 address. It's another 32-bit block.
Okay. Yeah.
And that can be used to signify, or the idea is, it can be used to signify whether it's a traditional IPv4 address or it's a new IPv8 address, but it allows for that backwards compatibility because of that first 32-bit 4-octet setup.
Yeah. Okay.
If it's a 0, essentially it's
if it's all 0,
traditional.
it's traditional. Yeah.
And if it's anything that's got like 1.1.1.1 or 1.0.0.0, then it becomes a new IPv8 address.
Okay.
The problem with it, well, actually, I'm not going to tell you the problem. I'm going to let you tell me the problem as another network engineer. I know that you've been away from it for a little bit, but all right. So there's 3 more things about IPv8 that you need to know. One, you have so it uses kind of like zones that are built into it, similar to EIGRP. OSPF. So it has zones that you have that tell you what's your kind of like your neighbor. It's very tied to DNS and DNSSEC. Everything is encrypted within the transmission within IPv8. So all the connections have to be done, and you have to have a DNS entry in order for IPv8 to work. So that's the first 2. The OSPF like under arching routing.
Yeah.
The DNS sec tie, mandatory DNS sec, and IPv8 also has no DHCP with it, similar to IPv6. So like it kind of generates the IPv8 addresses based off of the pool that you give that's set out.
Gotcha.
So do you have any, just based off those 3 facts, without me getting deeper into the talk of it, do you have anything that you think about that might stand out?
I mean, compared to IPv6, it's a big restriction on what you could just run locally. Like if you require DNS entries for everything, you don't get away from the like current restrictions in IPv4 of like the Class C space. Like you've got this little shared space that you're gonna have to NAT out to make sure nobody else kind of like sees the connection. So you still have to have this like, what's my private IP versus my public IP sort of situation. I mean, an extra 32 bits is great. It's still, I think, probably less IP addresses overall compared to IPv6, which, may or may not have its own concerns. I mean, we've been out of IPv4 for a very long time and have been moving over to IPv6. With IPv8, I guess you'll import all of IPv4, which is already full. And then, you've got now an extra 31 bits on that. Which does it do its
it would be an extra 32 bits on it.
Well, you're taking the first bit up with what exists.
No, it's like an extension on top of it.
You're I see. The first bit up. Okay. Yeah. Then an extra 32 bits that, which is a ton more addresses. Yeah. But in this world of AI, where you might have a cloud of AI instances that all have an IP, you could definitely run into issues there. Those would be the two things like top of mind that hit me, is that and I mean the zones also, that's now stepping into routing protocol space.
Yeah.
So now like you've got logic happening just on your addressing, which is going to be interesting to have to adapt to.
All that stuff adding to addressing slows down anything.
Yeah.
It creates convergence issues. But the big problem for me, and the thing that made me raise my hand, and you'll hear me if you listen to the talk, won't that slow things down, sir? Raising my hand. I just interrupted the guy.
Yeah.
The network engineer sitting in front of me, we were the only two network engineers. Yeah. We were both having like palpitations from listening to this guy talk. He put me on a thread that I could like listen to the whole thing, but essentially in my mind it's a non-starter as long as they're continuing to tie it to DNS. DNS fails a lot. It cannot be the linchpin. DNSSEC cannot be the linchpin.
Because also DNS does, I mean, like if you look at, let's say, hey, something has gone wrong. DNS going down or DNS being impacted is fairly common.
Yes.
And in really all layers. I mean, you see DNS problems happening on the endpoint level, actually happening on the DNS servers. Even just like a reachability issue happens, and now the DNS servers isn't available even though it's up.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot. And
well, in order for a device to get an IP address in this scheme, there has to be a DNS entry for it.
Yeah, which is also that's crazy now that we're expanding the address space. Or actually, you know what? No, I didn't even think about it on the backwards compatibility. We're converting 4 into 8. So even your local stuff on 4 would need who has a DNS entry for their PlayStation? Like
I do, but I'm crazy, and I run my own DNS server. I don't think anybody that's out there that is a just regular user wants to like deal with that stuff. No. Now he had said, and I might be wrong about that, it might not be that you have to do it in like an in-home instance. It might be for anything to be routed publicly over the internet. It has to have a DNS entry.
I was gonna say,
still that like slows things down. That makes everything crazy, and you're gonna want even with NAT and stuff like that, you're gonna want your PlayStation to be able to send traffic out to the internet. So you might have to register stuff.
You might have to register things. I just also I don't want nobody changing BGP.
Yeah.
Right? Like you gotta now make BGP compatible with autonomous zones that are like enforced through this particular way. Like that's
well, we already do that with running BGP on top of a internal routing protocol.
Yeah. But those are both protocols that exist that have kind of had the same way they do things.
Yes.
For quite a while. And so like throwing a wild card of like, but also this IP stuff.
Yeah.
Now you have to deal with this on top of it. And like, yeah, you got to go in and change OSPF. That's not great. You got to go change EIGRP. That's not great. I pucker up when it's like, we're going to have to like force BGP to start changing stuff. People getting BGP wrong is such a common issue that exists, Because, like, it is more complicated. You only need it for stuff that you're routing outside to the internet, which is a small subsection
or
of
your
networking.
large enterprise that needs BGP to be able to span continents.
Yeah,
and stuff
exactly.
Like that.
You know, things of that nature. So to put even more complexity into that, in a world where, and I'm sure there's going to be a topic in a different episode, in a world where everyone's pushing AI to make everything easier, you know, now we're throwing in, what if we had and I guess it's not even backwards compatible with 6. So, like, what are all the 6 people doing?
Yeah,
all the mobile phone
still have to
infrastructure is already on 6.
Yeah, you'd still have to like double stack, and then the guy that wrote it's like, well, this is intended not to require new silicon, but you would have to create new silicon to be able to do some of the things that he's talking about doing. And he doesn't have any code for this that he's shown yet, so I don't even know if this would work.
I think this guy just put up a white paper and just proposed something, and
he
now
basically
he's talking
did.
about it at trade shows.
Well, he didn't talk about it. Somebody else that
okay,
that knows the guy gave a talk about it.
Yeah.
This time.
All right.
I think it's a non-starter.
Yeah.
I don't think that it'll actually become anything. The one thing that I thought was a very interesting idea is the backward compatibility with IPv4.
Yes. Now that is the allure. It would be great for people just to be able to port IPv4 over. And look, if you can find a way to make it work, just do backward compatibility with 4 and 6.
Yeah, and
because there's already a little bit of compatibility between 4 and 6 where they like throw you in that other space.
Right.
You know, so like you could just build on top of that. I was very surprised actually when you started leading with backwards compatible that you went straight to 4 and it's not backward compatible with 6 because 6 is already what everyone's trying to move to.
Right.
And like probably the places that need new addressing the most are already on 6. That's why they're on 6 is because they were just, you know, it's all these mobile networks and device clouds and like things like that were just like we just can't exist in an IPv4 world. So like they're already like kind of top consumers. So to not have backwards compatibility with 6 just seems crazy.
It does. This is meant to be like a replacement for 6. I don't know if the guy is like really brilliant and he's figured out something and he just hasn't shown the world yet,
or maybe his buddy doesn't know it as well as he does,
right?
And,
or something else like that. Because the guy really, he's like, this is not my particular area of expertise. I know a little bit about routing and switching, but I'm not like the main guy. And I mean, we kind of gave it to him. I felt bad for him. He wasn't a bad speaker.
Yeah.
But also, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
I mean, it was a choice to not be a network engineer or like anything in networking and then give a talk on networking.
Yeah. To a room that could possibly have network engineers.
Well, you have to assume it's definitely going to.
Yeah.
Because like when you're talking about a specialty, you're going to get people that are just interested. But if you are just like, if you're a Linux admin and you're walking through and there's 2 talks available, there's one about some networking topic and there's one about some cool new development in Linux admin, you're going to Linux admin.
Yeah, exactly.
Like people are going to show up at their specialty. So even if there was only you 2 guys, if you're the only 2 people that were network engineers, you were going to be there because this is a talk about something that you are more directly involved with. So you just have to assume you're going to get at least a couple people that are true experts in what you're talking about, unless you're just talking about something that you just don't think would attract experts. So like if you were going to talk about something like business management process, you know, maybe you get like, oh, there's like an IT manager, but I'm talking more like this is how the C-suite makes the decisions it makes. Sure, maybe. You know, you could say this is more of an informational type of thing. I don't expect to see too many other people who are really specialized in it. Or like you want to give a talk about some new cool music thing. You know, like it's some like side passion project or whatever. Sure. But like a true network topic, like a true like IT topic at an IT convention, even if it is mostly Linux focused. Come on now. He needed to be prepared for some what sounds like very basic questions that were asked.
I think it comes down to that there's no code, there's no working lab model of this.
There's not even okay.
There's nothing like that. So
he says it's just an idea.
It's just an idea that the guys had. He said, you know, it should work. I think that it could have some validity, and I know there would need to be new silicon made for it and everything. If the person could just get the DNS stuff out of there, all the other like security stuff, all that stuff, and just put in the backward compatibility part.
Yeah.
See if that works even.
If you strip everything else out and it's just the expanded address block and the code to make the backward compatibility work, and you just called it IPv4 v2.
Yeah.
Like boom, that you'd get some people for sure
that would be interested.
That would be interested in that. When
Yeah.
it's just like a, hey, we're really struggling with his IPv6 conversion because of all the issues IPv6 has. What if we just like stopgapped and said, let's give us 32 bits more devices, and we will figure it out in the real IPv6 or real IPv8.
I think that running IPv6 dual stack at home, there's some times where I'd get weird resolution issues with DNS or routing issues out to the internet, or even within the home. And while I still keep it, sometimes on my critical environment stuff, I'll turn off IPv6 for that reason.
Yeah.
I haven't had to in a while, though. It's become more stable as time has gone on.
Yeah.
But I still have like some security stuff that I've set up that really only works on IPv4. IPv6 becomes like a loop point for that.
IPv6 still does definitely have its compatibility issues. I mean, I'll say in the role I am now, where I see how a lot of escalations go through various teams, not even just my own. I still see a pretty common troubleshooting step when it's like real high up in the escalation chain to be, okay, let's go turn IPv6 off.
Yep.
And see what that does. And it's, it doesn't fix it every time. It fixes it enough times that I understand why they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you never hear the opposite. I've never seen someone say, what if we just turn 4 off and we just got 6 and see if it works better?
I've done both. And I'll tell you, if it's broken into the dual stack, IPv6 isn't working. So turning it off does fix it. IPv4 always works.
Yeah.
I feel like, having gone to like talks about IPv6 and IPv8, IPv4 was made by some really brilliant people that existed, and has been fine-tuned to the point that it basically just works.
Yeah, I'll say, it came about in a time to solve a problem everyone was trying to solve.
Right.
And so then everything got built around it.
Yep.
I think that's really where the true compatibility issue is. It's just, it's not just, hey, can I get my network over to IPv6 on the routers and everything like that. It's now it does every single downstream solution support it.
Right.
Which is its own just huge
Nightmare.
undertaking. Yeah. Because, it's real easy. I mean, even like, the scripts that we run, like I've had to run scripts that generate address blocks and things like that and automatically apply them. The ease of even just getting like IPv4 set up in certain programming languages compared to IPv6, and that's just me using a library,
right?
Like if my code I write is somehow more complicated and I've got a library that's specifically set up to do IP addressing, there's your first little hint that maybe it's overly complex.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think it's a problem we have in IT, that we build things and we think about like, and this is it, and it will even lead back to a little bit of these AI topics that we've talked about, where like some people are of the mind of like, look, AI is just going to grow and it's going to be everything, and it has to be everything because it's really important right now. And so I think IPv6 tried to be the last version of IPv anything with is more addresses than molecules in the galaxy, or like whatever it is, the crazy number of addresses, and here's the more complicated schemas for how they'll work, and this is how you'll transition over to them. It tried to be the final, and this is how addressing will work forever, instead of what probably would have been a better approach is something kind of talked about like with IPv8, where it's like, hey, let's give us 20, 30 years more addresses, and then we'll revisit in 15 and we'll see where we're at.
Well, that was essentially the mindset with NAT and PAT and private IP spacing.
Yeah.
And then we've added to the address space to have reserved IP spacing too now, where you have like the 24 block, the 224, where you're able to go and put any sort of like messaging or protocols that need to happen through that. That's what OSPF uses. Those all extended the address space, but there wasn't any addition to it. No one was building anything new until we had
Yeah.
IPv6. So that is a completely like deep dive topic that I would love to go into. At some point we probably should. That probably should be a topic. Maybe even this year. It'd be a good one to talk about. We could talk about like kind of the history of IPv6. Maybe a little bit more on why IPv8 is probably a non-starter, and go like deep into that. Aside from like needing to build new silicon, if we take that out, all the other reasons that it's a non-starter. But what like some of the positive things might be, I don't think I want to crap on everybody's idea because I don't know everything. But I just as a network engineer that's at network architect level, I like had a literal like stroke. Well, not a literal stroke. I had a figurative stroke in the talk. There was some good talks about 3D printing. One of the people that I met while I was there, they did a talk that was very entertaining about using the command line as your 3D modeling software. Because there's oh man, I'm forgetting the tool, but there is a 3D modeling software that's really made for 3D printers as opposed to like some of the other things like Blender and stuff like that people use. And it's open source, but for the most part, you use the command line and use it like Markdown type language, which is not Markdown. I think it might be. It's its own language. It's got its own protocol language. But it was as much as I do with 3D printing and stuff like that, I also only have so much time and brain space, and that has not been my like route to go down. But now he's kind of intrigued me on that, so I might play around with it a little bit and do some like CAD designs and stuff like that using that software. There was a lot about AI, and about using AI agents like OpenClaw and stuff like that to be able to run local models or to kind of bridge everything all together. But there were definitely two camps of graybeards that were there. There were the ones that were like, all right, let's talk about AI and what it can do. What's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Which that was the best talk that I went to, was a guy who I liked a lot of the talks that I went to. The best one I went to was this guy did a talk on the first day, I think, about the bad and the ugly, because he was going to talk a little bit about the good. But 2 hours of talk, essentially talking about what AI does that's kind of negative, and then giving a demo for an hour of training a model on someone from the audience using one picture and a clip of them talking, and then creating a video based off that.
Oh yeah.
And it was, I mean, you could tell a little bit that it was AI because, the over exaggerated stuff the AI does, but he was able to massage it and make it a little bit more believable as it went along. And just somebody like this out there that isn't that tech savvy might have believed, and he was just doing goofy stuff like putting the guy in a onesie and stuff like that. And this was all with the guy's permission. It wasn't anything without consent. It was fun. And he's like, okay, there are real reasons for these things. Like, some of the most dangerous stunts that are out there could be eliminated as that risk if you had tools that allowed you to do part of it, and then you added the other stuff in and the AI created it, or placed you into it using some action that you'd already taken and stuff like that. And so that would, while that could impact like a stunt person's professional career, it would more change it than replace them.
Yeah, because it could very much be like, okay, hey, take this stunt we did 10 feet off the ground and make it 100 feet off the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or we're going to have an explosion that's right next to the person, and like it's blowing them up, where you can see that happening versus having to have like a stunt person.
Yeah, in the fire suit and everything.
Yeah, in a fire suit and all that stuff. So like lots of good could come from that, but then you also have the creation of not safe for work content without people's consent, being the ease of creating political weaponizations of
Yeah.
whether you're talking about videos or just like some sort of statement or something like that. Things like that can happen, and it can be used on both sides. One person saying, you know, they did something, but then they deny it, saying, "Well, how do you know that I did that? Because that could be AI. Can you tell me it's not?" And there's no real way to do that. Where on the other hand, someone could take something and make someone look like they did something that they didn't do. So yeah, it was a fascinating talk. There was a lot of good stuff there. You missed good content this year. Remember the year that we went and they talked about SSH keys and UB keys and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And then we came back and all that stuff was really relevant.
Yes.
I felt like
that year.
This is the same sort of thing. Like everything about this year with the vaults, with the password managers, with the talking about OpenShift and like and OpenBow and integrations through APIs, but also having like AI agents and like kind of like back and forth. And then there was just fun stuff on top of it. I didn't get to go to all the talks that I wanted to. I am definitely going to watch some of the things from this year on, the broadcast when they put them up on YouTube, because they have a YouTube channel that you can watch most of the talks. I suggest that anybody that's listening, if you haven't been to one of the Linux Fest, whether it's Northeast, Southeast, Northwest, Southwest, any of those like type of things, you definitely should go. They are great talks. The organizers are awesome. Just in general, it's a very good time. So, and next year we should go again.
Yeah, 100%.
We should figure out a way to make that happen.
Well, no, I think next year will have less barriers, because what really got it this year, it wouldn't have really applied because she was out of school, so I didn't think to do it. But I'd want to just send her up to the grandparents, because you let her have like a 3 or 4 day weekend up there, enjoy herself. She did not have the absences for it this year.
Yeah.
But because most years Linux Fest happens while school's still in session.
Right.
But if next year, it won't really matter if it's in session, because I'll just send her up, and she won't have the like 18 absences she already had this year because of other stuff that happened this year.
Yeah. It is kind of weird. They have it around the same time every year, around the like 10th. Or whatever.
It's the shift in the school schedule is what it is. That shifts by like a week or so.
Exactly.
Because it was going to be out of it 2 years ago, but because they lost so many days because of the hurricanes, it would have gone over. Because like even technically this year, if there had been more missed days, it would have been during school.
Right.
Because the like Thursday, Friday, and Monday were all teacher work days.
Yeah, gotcha. So let's talk a little bit about Starbucks getting rid of the AI inventory tool.
Yeah.
I included an article here. This is the only one that like we talked about AI. I just threw it in here because I felt like it was kind of funny. But we've talked about there's always this correction that happens with any of these things where people, they're like, oh, we're going to get rid of all this stuff, or we're going to make it automated through AI. And, you're training the AI to be able to do stuff. A lot of times it's framed as to make you more efficient.
Yeah.
But oftentimes CEOs and stuff like that are just all in on AI because it also will help them to cut costs in the manpower department.
It also gets like people interested in your business nowadays for investment and stuff like that.
Exactly. So Starbucks went all in with a inventory tool that would automatically like count how many cups there were and stuff like that. Eliminating that work for their employees.
Yeah.
The problem with it was it would just hallucinate stuff.
Yeah.
And it didn't really have a whole lot of checks and stuff like that. It was like some of the things in the article are crazy that it was doing.
Yeah. 100%. It was just completely misidentifying products that look too similar, which is, I mean, in a food services setting is a lot of stuff. It all comes in the same type of packaging, or you're putting it in the same type of containers, And I was a little surprised to see they went for it. I actually knew this had already happened. It showed up in a feed of a news site that I follow. But like we kind of learned this with Amazon's whole like grocery store thing, where its cameras couldn't keep up with it. Now, granted, I don't remember if the Amazon thing had LiDAR, But LiDAR wasn't really the problem. It wasn't detecting where items were that was the issue. It was identifying what the items were. Which is, again, reliant on the cameras.
I don't remember if they had LiDAR, but the Amazon thing,
Amazon
it ultimately ended up being
it was LiDAR and cameras.
Yeah, but it ultimately ended up being people.
Oh, yeah, sorry, other way around. Yeah, the Starbucks thing's LiDAR and people. It was just cameras. But because the cameras didn't work, they fell down to having people watch the cameras and try and follow it there.
And that still didn't work.
No, it didn't work.
You couldn't see everything. And people that didn't intend to shoplift were shoplifting because they thought that they were going to get charged for stuff when they walked out.
Yeah.
Like people,
other way around, you're getting charged for things you didn't buy.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a whole mess.
And the same sort of thing happened with Starbucks. It just was a bigger kerfuffle because
and even if you were because you would never get away from the hallucinations, but you could try and minimize them. It would require such a rigorous process of like everything needs to have a label that's always facing out towards the cameras at the right position and stuff like that. That ultimately you're not going to get food service workers to do it. Even with the best of intentions, you're busy. You got to go back and grab some more oat milk. And, now the container's rotated 10 degrees too much to the left. And now that increases hallucinations by 2%, which costs the company this amount of money. And it's like, it is an interesting problem they have. Because they were only doing this for their really high stock items, like the things you're constantly using. Because they do see a big revenue gap, and we run out of stuff, and it's hard to keep all these stores stocked correctly. Because I can see that, like, not only like your mainstay items are still your mainstay items, but depending where you are, is a very difference of opinion of the people that is your average person ordering oat milk versus whole milk, or is your average person doing some like complete vegan alternative, kind of thing. So I get it. It's hard to predict individually at a store level to have your stuff delivered just in time. But also, I don't know. This is going to sound maybe a little hypocritical. I know maybe this doesn't work at the thing for scale. But the restaurants I see that don't really have a huge problem with running out of stuff, even when they're really popular, are places that can say, hey, buddy, get off the line, take the corporate card, go to Walmart.
Yeah.
And go buy more beef, or go buy more this, or go buy more that.
Yeah. I think with Starbucks, there's probably some automations that could put in place, and I don't know enough about their.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things you could do. Like, this is a problem they will be able to probably not fully solve, but will be able to improve.
Yeah.
And I don't even fault them for thinking AI might be a decent solution for this if you're not super in the know of at a technology level how these things work. I can see someone thinking, hey, look, we'll just like LiDAR can count the number of cups because it can detect it as an object. Cool. This image will be pointed into the stock room, and it will tell the difference between the different types of milk. Like they really did have a fairly limited scope in what the items they were looking for. Like if they were trying to track every single thing in the store, I'd say they were fools. Like, how are you going to track the number of frozen cortadas or whatever? Yeah. But in the scope of just like, hey, I just need to know how much coffee and how much milk and things like that I've got. It wasn't crazy to assume you could get something like that to work really well if you weren't familiar with how often AI will just hallucinate something, and then oftentimes will ask if you hallucinated it. It's like, no, I didn't hallucinate it.
Yeah.
There's actually
this is real. This is the exact thing. You're ready, King.
Well, there's a dude I don't follow him, but he pops up in my feed a lot. That he's got ChatGPT set up via API so that he can talk to it. He's got like a little lab in his house. And what he does is just put it in kind of like interesting scenarios where he'll like hold up an object and be like one of them was a cup. Where it's like, hey, I've got a cylinder that has a hole in it. And like, how would I get the water that's like inside of it to come out? And like he had it just like angled on the sides, so like it was only like partially filled. And like it had cameras, it had LiDAR, and it had this set up, and it was just like, that's a trick question. You can't. And it's like, well, no, you definitely can't. It's like, well, definitely if you could rotate it left, and then it was like just a regular looking cup, and it's like, and now the liquid's out. It's like, no, liquid's still in it. And like he's got a bunch of different videos like that of just like, you're making the AI have to do something a little complex with just imaging and LiDAR. It fails at it, and it really fights back on it has not figured this out. Like, it has so many times it lands on like, this is just impossible, until he does like a super easy thing, like just rotate it a little bit, and then it's like, oh, I see, I see. You know, but it would fight you to the death that it wasn't wrong before then. So like, that's the other part of when you fully automate something, like, who's doing that check and balance? You know, like, you're getting the answer, and then maybe if it's something looks wrong, you get a person to say, hey, run it again. They're like, no, this is right. They're like, no, okay, I guess that's right.
Yeah, it even in our particularly unique situation where we're running, you know, in-house LLMs and we're doing things and all that stuff. And it gets it wrong sometimes. We have competent people that'll correct it, but we have better guardrails than what you know, Starbucks was doing.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that's one of the problems there. So that they should have backed out for sure.
Yeah.
But they, like, one of the problems there was that they were using it. They went straight to like an advanced use case without like
that's
doing
true.
some like guardrails and getting like, you know, very strict scripting set up to make this stuff happen. And I know that it's more complex than what the article like represents. I'm not saying they didn't do anything. I'm just saying, like, if you take the idea of tell me when the inventory of cups in this stack is low.
Yeah.
That is a complex set of things to get someone or an agent to do. And we don't think about it as humans because we handle that like that.
Super well, yeah.
But that's a pattern recognition thing that has been trained into us. That is easy. If you tried to get a 3 or a 5-year-old to do it, they just knock the cups over. They don't like really understand.
Yeah,
they'll
walk up to it and count it on the rims and like, yeah, you're right. Like a child you can easily fool with little things like that.
Right.
You know, yeah, it's a great point because, you know, there's a significant investment they had to do for this. You know, they're putting cameras and LiDAR in their stock rooms or whatever they're doing. Like, it wasn't a just, hey, we'll turn it on one day and see what happens. But I mean, you're very right. Even in our very limited use case, I see certain problems of kind of that nature, where we had an issue at work that required a lot of people to do a lot of work, and it got at one point got split up into 2 teams. One team was larger; it had like 6 people, and they were doing like 3 things. It was the same thing in different places, but they needed to go do it on 3 places. Whereas the other one was just 2 people doing it in 2 places. So, you know, people to problem, much better in the room that was very heavily using AI, and they finished so much later than the room with just the 2 people who kind of did it manually without AI. And it also led to another interesting issue where the people who had first noticed the issue and first started working on it, they noticed it during their normal shift because they're on a different place in the world, and it was now like getting to midnight, 1 a.m. where they were. And they couldn't leave because the AI agent that they were working with the skills to fix it is now written stuff to go talk to these devices that's local to their instance.
Oh, yeah.
So they couldn't just pass it off to the next group of people without having to start that work over, which really highlighted a problem that I'm going to have to bring up to management. It's like, this is something we need to think about, because if we're really heavily using this AI stuff, it's not just okay, and here's a 5-minute description of the problem and what I've done. Here's my write-up. Chuck it to the next guy.
Yeah, you can't really like do a pull request and like merge your changes that you created locally on your machine back up.
Yeah, and
fast because the approval chain is not there
you have to go through approvals, but even then, like, would you even really want to? Are we now adding to the repository this one-off kind of homunculus of a script that's kind of been like, now check this for me. Oh, that's not okay. Well, check this other thing for me. It's like, oh, okay. Well, now double check this. Okay, make this change on the device. You know, like, I'm sure that like it was working for them, albeit slowly, which is why they finished slower. But like that thing probably has no use to ever be used again,
right?
Because it wasn't built like a skill. It's just built of a, hey, keep keep hammering at this thing until we find what the problem is.
Yeah, what I was saying is just for the handoff. Like
Yeah,
you can't. It's not a simple problem of just like merge it back in or create another branch.
Yeah, you're right. We had like
up.
some repo that was just like soon to be abandoned stuff. And
Right.
we knew we were going to clear stuff out of it. You're right. You still have to do the pull requests. And even then, but like you'll still lose the chat context. Like sure, you've got the code, but the AI agent doesn't know why it was doing what it was doing.
You
anymore.
might could put that in a memory, but still, I mean, it creates all these it's a complication that a human can handle this problem fairly easily.
Oh yeah, and it was. They handled it so easy. It was going to be boring. It was the same set of commands on a bunch of different interfaces on a bunch of different devices, and that's boring. But the team that did it by hand did it. And the thing that took me back the most is when it was time to validate that it had worked. That took maybe 2 minutes.
Yep.
For them to validate that everything was exactly where they wanted, go to the controllers and make sure everything looked the way it was supposed to look, and it was done. When it came time for the AI group to check if it was done, they were having the AI check for them, and it was like go check if this is fixed now. And it's like, it didn't quite check what I wanted it to check. Try it again. And there's like 15 minutes in between each one of those runs because it's touching a bunch of different devices and checking a bunch of different interfaces. And it's like their verification of the issue is fixed took like an hour compared to the 2 minutes for the people who were doing it manually. So it's like it's still, you can have the best intentions, best guardrails. There's still as soon as it's got to start, as soon as you have to start on the fly telling it what to do, you've lost your efficiency for the most part.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it's something that's real simple, like here's a bunch of context, write me a knowledge article. I love it for that, actually. It's like writing summaries and stuff. I could feed it in a bunch of data. It's pretty good at that. But as soon as I need my AI to log into devices and it doesn't already have like set pathways of what it's doing, and I'm just saying it's like, hey, can you just go check for X? That
becomes a problem.
Yeah.
I experience that all the time. I mean, even with like cases and stuff like that, it becomes a problem. So we probably should wrap this up.
We should. We went on. I think someone made a promise of like 15-minute episodes. 15 minutes.
Yeah, I was like, well, when you showed up late today, I was like, we're only going to get one done because even with 15 minutes, we wouldn't have had enough time to do it. So I just let it run instead of being.
It's
like,
a good one, though.
Yeah, but we got some good talks in.
Yeah.
Next time we'll do some shorter episodes. We'll have to get together next weekend and do it.
Which
again.
I've got tons of availability next weekend.
So that'll work. That'll work beautifully. This has been season 9, episode 10 of the beer. Oh wait, we should drink the beer
while it's warm.
While it's warm, see what the door is like when it warms up. I'll let you talk about it. Ooh. Oh, that's interesting.
A very different beer.
It becomes much juicier.
Yeah, but it's also lost its carbonation because it's been sitting here warming up as opposed to being left in the bottle warming up.
Right.
And I actually like both of those things. It is the fruit flavors, the sweetness comes out a lot more when it's warm, which is to be expected. That's just how sweet flavors work. I do kind of like it a little still. You're right. It makes it very juice-like.
Yeah.
It almost feels like you're doing something closer to like a tequila sunrise, where it's just like a liquor mixed with juice. It gets like a cocktaily sort of vibe to it almost.
It does. It almost takes the alcohol flavor out of it. Like
it does.
It's still there, but it's just much more muted.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I like it better like this.
I kind of do too.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it was good before. It's really good right here. This is something. Like, not only would I just drink it plain, like you could build a cocktail around this. Like, it's such a good flavor. If you wanted like a little low beefy thing, you can see that.
You could also cook chicken in it like this.
Yeah, you can marinate with it for sure.
This has a lot of. If it wasn't so expensive, this would be like have a lot of options that you can do with it. But it might be if you're making some sort of fancy meal, this might be a good replacement for like a chicken marinade with some spices in it and stuff like that. I have a couple of bottles of it. I might try like some stuff where I put beer normally in a recipe. I might try this one. Well, anyways, now this has been season 9, episode 10 of the Beer and Broadband podcast. Should come out on June 22nd, 2026. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.